After a bit of a break for Carabao Cup and an FA Cup weekend, it is time to turn our attentions back to a little bit of FPL. And today's video, the first of 4 videos in a row this week, we're going to take a look at Chip Strategy. We're going to have an update of what the blanks, doubles, triple captain, assistant manager, bench boost, wildcard, free hit plans look like for the remainder of the seasons, when we should know what you should be doing, when you should be playing the chips to get the best advantage over your rivals. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. And of course, we've all been waiting. Carabao Cup, FA Cup. Now we can have another look at some potential chip strategies. So that's what we're going to do in today's video. Then, of course, we'll have the usual videos every single day this week until the game week 25 deadline. And chip strategy generally is pretty important at the moment. It's kind of defining with the announcements that we're having what we're doing with our teams and actually what transfers we can make as well. So to start off with a bit of an update on what the schedule is going to look like. The schedule is becoming a lot clearer because of the double that was sort of announced in game week 25. It makes things a lot easier to predict where they're going to go in general. So it's not guaranteed we know the best chip strategy at the moment because things could fall into 1 of 2 weeks, but generally we have a better idea of what the season is going to look like. So of course, we had the double in game week 24, where some of you will have activated your assistant manager. And now we have a double again in game week 25 for Aston Villa and for Liverpool as well. If you want more updates on exactly what that double is, if you haven't seen it, then go and check out my updated new plans video from Friday last week. It then means in game week 29, we have 2 blanks, Aston Villa, Liverpool, Newcastle, Crystal Palace. Newcastle, Crystal Palace is not 100% confirmed as a blank. Just for the small reason is they haven't actually rearranged that fixture yet. And as part of game week 29, there is a weekend dedicated to the FA Cup. Now, Newcastle and Crystal Palace are both still in the FA Cup, and they both have a very decent draw in the next round. So for that to have a chance of going into game week 29, they would both have to get knocked out. So after the draw, it went up from 95 to 98%. There's a very small chance it goes back in, but basically 2 confirmed blanks in game week 29. Then we should have another blank in game week 34 caused by the semi-finals of the FA Cup. We are predicting, and we'll talk a little bit more about game week 34 in a bit more detail, somewhere between 0 and 8 teams having a blank. So somewhere maybe 3 or 4 games to be postponed. The average, the prediction, sort of the percentages is that we will get 3 games postponed, meaning we'll have 6 teams with a double to reschedule, 3 games to reschedule. Now, they could go anywhere. Well, they can't go anywhere. They are predicted to go in either game week 33 or into game week 36. Both of these have completely free midweeks to potentially have a double. The predictions at the moment have 33 as where the majority of those fixtures are going to go, and 36 as sort of a make way in case there is anything else. So at the moment, the prediction is 33 will be a big double. 36 will be a much smaller double. In theory, it could happen the other way round. 36 could be a big double, 33 could be a small double, and in theory, it could be split as well, where they could put some fixtures into 33 and some into 36. The general consensus, though, is all the fixtures from 34 will go into the same week, so we will probably end up with 1 big double, and then anything left over is going to go into the other one. The prediction, as I said, is 33 as a big double and 36 as a small double. So as it says below, the doubles are caused by the 34 fixtures going into either 33 or 36, and this mysterious Newcastle Crystal Palace fixture, which still hasn't been moved from game week 29, where it is likely to be a blank. So where is that likely to go? So if Newcastle Crystal Palace continue in the FA Cup, so that they are likely to blank in game week 34, then they have 2 doubles. And in that situation is where we'll get the second small blank. But if we get to the situation where Newcastle and Crystal Palace both crash out of the FA Cup before the semi-finals, then we may end up with only 1 more double left this season in either 33 or 36, which is why the potential to save your chips later on in the season is a little bit dangerous in case Newcastle and Crystal Palace do crash out. Now, Crystal Palace are expected to not reach the semi-finals, but Newcastle are. A lot of this does depend on the draw, though. So basically, we are expecting Newcastle to get far in the FA Cup. And if that is the case, likely scenario is a big double in game week 33, a blank in game week 34, a small double in game week 36 for Newcastle and whoever they are going to double against. The final thing to mention before we get into slightly less hazy stuff is game week 37 does clash with the FA Cup final, but the midweek after the FA Cup final is free. This isn't something to worry about. In theory, there are two teams this could be an issue for in Tottenham and in Manchester United if they were to reach the FA Cup final, because they are both still in the Europa League. So in that case, they wouldn't be able to replay that fixture from game week 37 in the midweek after, and would have to move somewhere else. Again, just slightly increasing the chances that we do get some sort of double in game week 36, because probably that fixture, if it had to move out of game week 37, would just move to the midweek before in game week 36. So that's not too much to worry about. It's just a little caveat. As I say, don't worry about this now, but let's have a look at game week 34 and try and predict what's going to happen. So having a look at game week 34, which is the big blank, and it is the likely shaper for the rest of the doubles that we've got left this season, of course, apart from that Newcastle Crystal Palace game, because teams that blank in game week 34 are basically going to be the only teams that double elsewhere in the season, of course, apart from potentially Newcastle and Crystal Palace. In the graphic on the right-hand side, the ones with the red circle are still in the FA Cup, so are likely to blank unless they get knocked out. And the ones with the green circles are the ones already out of the FA Cup. So you can actually see that after the FA Cup results at the weekend, we have two confirmed fixtures. Chelsea-Everton confirmed with both teams getting knocked out this weekend, and Liverpool-Spurs also confirmed. So basically the free hit becomes slightly weaker because the ability to play through game week 34 without a free hit has become slightly easier. But as we've said, if all those teams with a double are going to double in game week 33 a week before, to try and plan for a bench boost a week before and then a blank straight after isn't the easiest thing to do. So when will we start to know? Going into game week 28, so between game week 27 and 28, we will have the fifth round of the FA Cup. And then between game weeks 29 and 30, we'll have the quarterfinals. And then, of course, game week 34, we have the semi-finals. So going into game week 28, we'll have the quarterfinal draw, which means we will have accurate percentages of who's going to blank in game week 34, because we will know who they're playing. And if they win that match, they'll blank. And if they don't win that match or their opponent, then they will play in game week 34. Going into game week 30, we will know who's going to blank in game week 34. But we'll talk about it in a moment. We might not actually know who is going to double. But going into game week 30, we should know who is going to blank and try and predict the best doubles as a result. As you can see, the draw for the next round, the fifth round that we've got between game week 27 and game week 28 is above. What you will notice is the majority of the big predicted Premier League teams to do well in this competition have been kept apart. So we aren't expecting that much extra information between game week 27 and game week 28 apart from the round draw for the quarterfinals. And that will, of course, just give us a better percentage of what's going to happen. So at the moment, we don't know a lot more. We have had two confirmed fixtures. We'll know a little bit more going into game week 28, and we'll know an awful lot more going into game week 30. So what I just said might be a little bit confusing, because I said we might not know the doubles going into game week 30, but we will know the blanks. And this is just a real word of caution. I'm seeing a lot of people recommending and talking about a game week 30 wildcard, and there comes with a lot of danger for doing that. And it's not a massive change in strategy. It just means that potentially wildcarding in game week 31 is better than wildcarding in game week 30. So the game week 29 deadline is on the 15th of March. There is then an international break. After the international break, there is then an FA Cup round of weekend, and then there is a Tuesday Premier League deadline. So the FA Cup will decide who blanks in game week 30, and then in theory has fixtures to reschedule for the double. But that doesn't finish until late on that Sunday evening, and the FPL deadline is on the Tuesday. Do we think they are going to announce the double game weeks that need to be rescheduled between the end of that Sunday and the Tuesday? Chances are they might not have time to do it quite by the Tuesday. They might, but they also might not. It's more likely that we get it at some point that week before the game week 31 deadline. And the reason this is so vital to understand is because there is so far between game week 29 and game week 30, there will be lots of people who wildcard straight after the game week 29 deadline, start making transfers. And yes, you might want to gain a bit of value, but you could be wildcarding for 2.5 weeks over an international break, an FA Cup weekend, and get to game week 30 and not actually know where the doubles are going. Because as I said at the beginning, they're most likely to go into game week 33, but they could go into game week 36. So if they go into game week 36, your wildcard team will look a lot different. So it's a word of caution that when we get to game week 29, don't go making loads of transfers and don't go activating a wildcard, because if you don't get the activation, if you don't get all the doubles announced before the deadline, it's going to look a lot worse than if you do. So in a lot of the strategies we'll talk about, we actually have wildcard penciled in game week 31 exactly for this reason of being safe. Now, if we do get the announcement before game week 30, you can still wildcard in game week 30, but it's just a little bit of caution. So then just having a look at what the predicted schedule looks like using FPL.team. So of course you've got those blanks in 29, blanks in game week 34, doubling game week 33 and doubling game week 36. You can see at the moment the doubling game week 36 is just one fixture. It is Newcastle and Ipswich, which would move out of game week 34 and into game week 36. In theory, it could be Newcastle, Crystal Palace as well, but it's very likely that it will be Newcastle, including a home fixture against Chelsea, and in this case, a home fixture against Ipswich. That is an opportunity to play your assistant manager or play your triple captain if you do leave either of those chips late on. Game week 29, we already know that is the blank that we have for the Carabao Cup final. Game week 36 likely to be small, and then basically what you have is a lot of teams doubling in game week 33 and then blanking in game week 34. There's only really one team that won't happen to, is the prediction, and that is Crystal Palace, because they still have to have a double but are not predicted to get to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. It's really important to notice that we have a double in game week 33, which is most likely for the bench boost, followed by a blank, in which place most of the teams that you want in 33, you suddenly don't want in 34. And that is why I will constantly recommend that the free hit, although it looks appealing in 29, you could play it in game week 33. I still think game week 34 is the best predicted chance to play your free hit. The doubles in game week 34 are predicted to be okay. It's probably the worst double, big double we'll have playing this game since I can remember. Partly because it's smaller, because we've got less blanks this season because of the midweek specified for the FA Cup. But also just the clashes don't look great, right? Villa play Newcastle and Man City. Bournemouth go away to Palace and Manchester United. Crystal Palace have Bournemouth and Newcastle, with Manchester City and Arsenal either side of that. Manchester City, Man United and Newcastle probably have the best doubles, with Everton, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Wolves and Aston Villa, Crystal Palace. It doesn't look like the best set of chips sort of doubles, but the general strategy is that 33 will be the biggest, and these are the predictions at the moment. So just before we talk about actual strategies, because in theory there's about 100 permutations of you could play this week, this week. So it's best to just first explain when the best opportunity to play a lot of the chips are. You will disagree with some of what I'm about to say, but I am always a person who will play my chips in the best opportunity across double game week. So as a caveat there, you could play some of your chips in a single game week, and that is absolutely fine. If you want to triple captain in a single game week, if your bench looks strong in a single game week, these are all absolutely fine. But the recommendation will always be to play your chips in double game weeks to get potentially the best and most high ceiling outcome. Bench boost is first, because for me, you should just play that in the biggest double, which is predicted to be game week 33, but of course could fall into game week 36. But let's say it goes into game week 33. Assistant manager should be next. You should play that in the next most likely best case scenario for the doubles. Most of you have already played it in game week 24. If not, some of you will be playing it in game week 25. If not, you'll probably be saving it to game week 36. For example, you could play it in game week 31 to 33. It will look nice. But if game week 33 is the best for the bench boost, you're probably best off playing the assistant manager in either 25 or 36 if you haven't played it already. Next up is triple captain. That should be played in the remaining double that is the least important of all the chips. So depending on where your bench boost is, most likely 33, and depending on when your assistant manager is in 25 or 36, your triple captain should be played in the other remaining double. Free hit and wildcard then both go hand in hand. So you'll either free hit in 29, and if you free hit in 29, you then need to wildcard in game week 35. The reason for that is you need to be able to navigate the second blank and prepare for the end of the season. So free hit 29, wildcard 35. But if you want to free hit in 34, then you're probably going to wildcard in either 30, 31 or 32 in order to prepare for game week 33. Then you free hit game week 34 before being ready for the final 4 weeks of the season. Now, as I've said, you could free hit in a double. I just don't think that there are enough doubles left this season with any significance to play your free hit in. Basically, only free hit opportunity in a double would be 33. but 33 is also going to be the best week to bench boost. It's also going to be, in theory, the best week to assistant manager and maybe triple captain as well. So as much as free hit in a blank last year didn't work, there are much better teams playing in the blanks this year than last year that I do think it's much better to just pick a blank and free hit in it, and things will fall in accordingly. So what we've got here are some potential strategies. We'll walk through them all. Of course, at the beginning, we've got the doubling game week 25. If you've already got your assistant manager active, you'll be picking one of the strategies in either 2 or 4 that, of course, has assistant manager in 25. Or if you're going to activate it this week, then, of course, you go with 2 and 4 as well. So as I said, the first thing you need to do is decide when you're going to free hit and when you're going to wildcard. So if you're going to free hit in 29, you're looking at strategies 1 and 2. If you're going to free hit in game week 34, you're looking at strategies 3 or 4 again. The wildcard at the moment is in game week 31. If we get the double announcements by game week 30, it could well be game week 30. In theory, if you wanted to wildcard in game week 32, you could wildcard in game week 32 as well. You can wildcard in any of those game weeks after 29 and making sure you're ready to do it before before the double in game week 33 when you're going to bench boost. Bench boost is in for 33 for all of the strategies. It is the best week to play the bench boost if it remains the biggest double, which is what we are predicting. So bench boost is 33 for them all. And then that just leaves which way round you want to play your triple captain or your assistant manager. Now, for actually a lot of you, this will already have the decision made up for you. If you've already played your triple captain, in theory, you could assistant manager this week or at the end. But with 50% of people watching having already activated the assistant manager, you're probably going on either strategies 2 or strategies 4, depending on which way around you want to play your free hit and you want to play your wildcard as well. If you have played no chips, strategy 3 is my favorite. I'd prefer the triple captain this week over the assistant manager. I prefer the wildcard and free hit in game week 34 personally. So if that is my recommendation, if you have all of the chips active. If you've only played the triple captain, you are either looking at going with strategy 3 again, but of course not triple captain in game week 25, or you're looking at going on strategy 4 if you want to play your assistant manager this week, and then you can just remove the triple captain at the end in game week 36. If you've already played your assistant manager, of course, again, I do prefer option 4. Option 3 and 4 are generally my favorite because I prefer the wildcard 30 to 32 and free hit 34 rather than the free hit 29. But if you want a free hit 29 because your team doesn't look great for that week, then you just go in strategies 1 and 2. It doesn't really matter if you've played your triple captain, your assistant manager, or maybe even your bench boost. These strategies still fall into place. You just have to remove the chip that you've already played from that strategy. The only time it's significant is if you've already played your free hit or you've already played your wildcard. So if you've already played your free hit, I would set the wildcard for game week 35 and play through the blank in game week 29 and dead end into the blank in game week 34. If you've already played your wildcard, then I'd be looking to free hit in game week 34 because game week 29 is much easier to play through without a potential chip. In terms of my chip strategy, where I'm at the moment, I've already played my triple captain, so I'm looking at either strategy 3 or strategy 4, of course, with the triple captain removed from either of them. I do probably plan on playing the assistant manager this week, about 60-40 that I will. So that's where I'm at in strategies 3 and strategies 4 for my own team. So just to wrap up by answering a few of the questions I know that are going to be in the comments. The first one is, you want to free hit in a double. When is the best opportunity to do it? Personally, as I've said, there are not enough big doubles to free hit in a double this year when you can free hit in a blank, which is equally as positive for your team. If you really, really want to play your free hit in a double, triple captain 25, free hit 33 for the big double, wildcard 34, assistant manager 35 or 36, and bench boost probably in a single game week, but I do not recommend it. Next up is, should you be playing the assistant manager this week if you didn't play it last week or you played your triple captain last week? Personally, I prefer the triple captain this week if you still have both of the chips left available, but at the moment I do plan on doing it. I'm about 60% yes, 40% no. Doesn't just feel right though, targeting Liverpool every single week for a table bonus just feels a little bit weird, which is what is putting me off. And final one is, you are on the assistant manager, is you're active now, when to play your triple captain. My plan and my recommendation would be to wait until game week 35, 36, 37, 38. Hope the Newcastle get far in the FA Cup, which they are predicted to do, and hope that Alexander Isak gets another double and play it on him. If you don't want to do that, there are some good single game week opportunities, including Southampton at home for Mo Salah. You've also got Southampton and Leicester at home for Cole Palmer. Haaland has some decent fixtures as well if you want to play it in a single, but personally, I'd be saving it to the end of the season, hoping that they get an extra double. If not, you could play it on Salah in game week 38 at home to Crystal Palace. So, and as an update of Chip Strategy, again, my plan is to not really lock it in until we get to game week 30. That has always been the contingency. We had to change things around a little bit because we've got these extra doubles in 24 and 25 that we've been navigating, but my plan is still not to free hit in game week 29 and decide on the remaining strategy once we get the doubles announced in game week 30, or most likely in game week 31. If you have any questions that aren't answered in this video, drop it all in the comment section down below. If you've got players you want me to discuss going into game week 25 as well, we'll be back with transfer targets for tomorrow's video as well. 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back again very soon.